We're all in the same storm. I believe now more than ever, our study travel industry need to be united and collaborative. The reason why we're doing this and we're involving the partners is mainly because we want to share the ideas, the thoughts, the passion, the resilience for our study travel industry. We want to transfer positivity and the commitment to our students, to our international clients who are so looking forward to our life-changing experience.
I think the main thing is to make sure that you are in touch with your friends, your family, and you spend time with people that add value to you, people that you love. So that's for me is top priority. Having people around you and have this interaction is extremely important in this moment. And also due to the lockdown, I spend more time outdoors. Also because it was summertime as well, which kind of helped. But I've been doing way more things outdoors and having contact with nature and doing exercise outside and not only inside the gym because the gym was closed. And so I've been enjoying myself much more outdoors, and I've been using my garden much more for reading, for barbecues and other things, like even like having lunch outside was something that I wouldn't think about before, but during the lockdown was something that I did a lot. So I think that those little things are important to do. Have contact with people and do things that you love, have more time for yourself. I love doing online courses and I love photography. So I've been having much more time to spend on these little hobbies that I have. Watching movies, of course, I think that's a classic option for most of us. But yeah, I think that all these things that really help me with my sanity and my to keep the good mental health about this whole situation.
At the beginning, it was difficult to adjust to. Myself and my colleagues were, the school closed on the 20th of March, and we all were sent home. It was very difficult. It was difficult for students. We had lots of requests from students for different things that we had to manage from home. But personally, it was quite nice to be at home with friends and family and spending some time with loved ones. You can't really beat that. So personally, it's not been too bad.
At the beginning, it has been really stressful. It has been a big change moving from the office to the remote work, especially during the lockdown when there wasn't possibility to go out, live and work in the same space with no possibility of going out. It was really stressful. Then step by step, it changed a little bit and I'm getting used to it. So remote working is now fine. Of course, there are all other things still going on. For me, it's been really challenging knowing about travel restrictions, not only for work related. It was already like a big challenge to manage the international mobility with travel restriction going on, but even for myself to visit my family or some business travels and so on.
In case I work by myself and I have some other worker, but we work remotely even before COVID. So COVID in that case didn't impact so much in my job. It changed a lot the market. It changed a lot the request from people in Italy because I work in an Italian market. But actually, in my position, it didn't change a lot.
I have managed the COVID-19 first of all, I tried to stay positive. That was important for me. And after I get in touch with my partners, and we shared our ideas and our experience in this special time. And obviously, I get in touch with my family, with my friends, because it was very important for me to get support. And we try to be positive, to give birth to new projects, because it was very necessary to change and to change our work, for example. And that was important for us to have a team.
Myself and my team, COVID was something unthinkable just at the end of 2019. But in life you need to be prepared about everything. But so you need to be ready about changements and things. So at the beginning was quite scary, I would say, from a personal point of view, but also from a professional point of view. And after a while, of course, we understood the situation. We put in many things to deal with, and now at the end of the year, we have 15 students more than we had in the same time of 2019. So probably is just about being lucky. But it's going very well for all the things we have done after reacting to the first impact.
So first of all, we started online classes straight away, as all the schools did. I think we were, everyone was a little bit shocked and panicked about how we were going to do these online classes, all the schools. Luckily, we've got an amazing team of teachers at Delphin, and the students responded really well to the lessons. They got used to them, and now that we are actually reopening, some of the students, they want to stay online, which is very surprising, because you think, it's all about the experience coming to the UK, meeting people. But for some of them, it was enough just to be online. So that was really interesting. So we've actually kept our online provision, and now we're open for face-to-face classes. Another thing we did, we had to postpone a lot of courses, and students were generally quite happy with that. They understood that we physically couldn't be open, so they would come back and study when we opened. And obviously, lots and lots of preparation to make sure we were COVID ready. Lots of signage, preparation in classrooms, information for staff and for students, and that took actually a really long time. But now we're ready.
At the beginning, while was the third term in early 2020, we supported a lot parents, because at the beginning everyone was scared about financial issues. So many schools ask for immediate money and things. This wasn't our approach at all. We had a completely different approach. And we stated and we put in place a sort of hardship fund. So we offered to our parents a 25% discount over the tuition fee for our day schools in case they were suffering. And we created a sort of fund for families who needed a financial support. And as an outcome, we had a lot of families that paid in full, because they appreciated a lot the kind of message we were sent. And all the money we got out of 25%, also with another discount from our perspective, we contributed to help a lot of families. So this was the first way to put in place a sort of a real strong engagement with our parents, which are the best friend we have.
Well, basically, we continued to operate as normal as possible. So we still offered like basically rooms in our properties. We still offered our welcoming service, although it was remotely. And what I mean by welcoming service is that we would still be a point of contact for the client by email or by phone, although we couldn't meet them in person during the first part of the lockdown. And currently now, again, as we've started the second part, but we still offered our services by phone and by email. So we were still in constant contact with the clients about their booking, their arrival, if they had any queries when they came here, and also any queries to do with COVID-19. We were able to be in touch with them. So we continued to welcome them as normal. Unfortunately, we weren't able to meet them in person unless it was absolutely necessary. But we always put ourselves forward to be a point of contact. We have a 24-hour emergency phone that was offered to the number for that was offered to the clients at all times. So if they ever wanted to contact us by phone or by WhatsApp, we were available to welcome them like that. And all of the information about their arrival was shared several times before their arrival to make sure everything was okay.
Well, I think when you're faced with something like COVID-19, it's great now 5 months on to reflect on things. It was obviously quite a shock. And our first and foremost concern was, of course, for our students and for our employees. So to begin with, we'd seen it coming perhaps earlier than others because we have so many groups that tend to come from Italy in the February, March time. So it was obvious that this was going to be something very serious. And yeah, our concern was repatriating a lot of our students because they wanted to go home. So that was our first concern. Secondly, obviously, we took measures inside the college for those that were remaining for those last few weeks and then in lockdown to make sure that everyone was safe and secure. And now having reopened, which is great for us, of course, we're kind of doing it a little bit in reverse. So the focus on reopening was how do we get students to come back to the country and how will they feel safe? And I think more than ever on a global scale, we've seen how different people have different priorities. Clearly, for some countries, it's quite normal to wear a face mask, and others, it's been quite a new thing. For example, from Europe, whereas coming from Asia, for many years, people have worn face masks. So we made that mandatory. We also made sure that we were sanitizing everyone's hands, that we gave a proper induction to all of our team. So we put lots of measures that are very safety based. But I think one really important point to make both before going into lockdown and again now is we want to make sure that the environment and the reason why people come, which is to learn English, to have an experience abroad, is not sanitized to the point where you can't enjoy yourself anymore. It's so important. People want to get on with their lives. They want to study. They want to have fun. And I think we've tried to really strike a balance between all what you might call the hygiene factors, what we have to do, and the bits that make the special environment that we have.
First of all, we respect the measures of the German government, and we try to organize language courses, for example, in very, very small groups. We organize internship programs in very small companies, so we had the possibility to track contacts, for example. Then we reduced the capacity of a student house, and we have several rooms for students in case of COVID. So we have quarantine rooms for them. And we obviously give them a special support in the special times. So we have emergency numbers, we have a couple of doctors in case of illness or something, and we expand also our support so parents can always contact us if it's necessary.
Well, that was quite a large project. From back in March, April, when we did have to shut down and we went online, we started working out what would we need to do in order to be ready to welcome students, because we didn't know at what stage we would be. So we went about drawing up a reopening protocol along with MEI and Select Ireland, and we devised our own health and safety. We brought in specialist company to basically audit us and go through the protocols and reopening procedures. We then invested, obviously, in sanitizing equipment. We invested in an electrostatic disinfectant sprayer, which we use. You may have seen them on the news, on television, when they're spraying aeroplanes and things. So the system that we put in place here for the school was to ensure that we had a building that both students and staff felt safe in when they were able to come back here. And I'm happy to say that when we did open on September 7th, the initial worry and tension that some students and staff had, it was amazing. It was within a couple of hours, both staff and students were coming back saying how safe they felt. We've upped our cleaning, our sanitizing. We reduced the number of students in the classrooms, obviously maintaining social distancing. And over the period while the school was closed and we had launched our online platform back in March, we decided to digitize our entire syllabus. So all of our material and everything is all digital, and the classes are all they're all potentially online and physical at the same time. So we've also set up quarantine situation for accommodation. So any students that come over, they can go into accommodation for 2 weeks where they have self-restriction under the guidelines here in Ireland at the moment. And we have a hybrid version of our classes running. So for the first 2 weeks while the student is in the accommodation, in fact, they follow the classes through Zoom. And the classrooms have the technology set up with webcams and multi-directional microphones. So yeah, it's been, exciting and new for all of us here. And to be honest, it's worked exceptionally well. We've had students arriving in every week since we've opened. All of them have had to do the quarantine for 2 weeks, and yeah, they're delighted to come over.
University, I think that the advantage we have is that the procedures we put in place have to be 100% compliant, and perhaps we could do a little bit more to make sure that everything is safe for the students and for the staff members. But we have, for example, signs everywhere around the campus to give people directions and to help them remember the rules of health and safety. We also have all our desks as positioned 1 meter apart from each other. The teachers as well, they have to stay at least 1 meter apart from the students during classes. However, we are not having the face-to-face classes at the moment. We are doing online, and in the near future, when it's safe to do so, we'll go back to the face-to-face lessons on the campus. The restaurants at the campus are only takeaway at the moment, so they're not open for students to walk in and grab the food and sit down. They have to buy the food and leave the premises and leave the cafe or restaurant. So that's another measure we have in place. Wearing masks all around the campus is another thing we require, including masks inside the classrooms as well during the class when we have the face-to-face classes back. Public transport in Dublin requires the use of the mask as well, and wipes and sanitizers are all around the classrooms and the premises in the campus, so students always have the wipes available for them to clean the desks, sanitizers for hands, and we don't have more than 13 students in the classroom, and our classrooms are fairly big, so we still have enough space to respect the rule of 1 meter apart from each other in the classrooms. So that's also another measure we have in place. And yeah, generally speaking, we decided not to go back to the face-to-face classes just yet. But when we are ready to welcome the students back at the campus, all these measures that I mentioned will be in place.
the biggest change in my life, because versus 2019, I used to travel more or less everywhere from South America to Asia and other countries, and suddenly, of course, we entered in the dimension of Zoom and Skype, everything that people now is hating completely. We're using now this mean, but I'm quite sure that people look forward to come back to a face-to-face, in person, in touch situation. So we had webinars and seminars, but anytime with not just the idea of showing our schools and things, but just talking about things interesting for families and partners. And we were very successful. That's why we had the chance to increase the number.
Everyone will say the same answer to this, Marta. Zoom, thank you, Zoom. You've saved it. We had a really good fair provided by English UK, the English UK Summit, where we were able to meet lots of different partners via Zoom, and it really showed us that although face-to-face meetings are probably better, this is a good alternative. So in the future, we will be looking to join online fairs, such as the Alfitos provided by Study Travel. So, yeah.
Well, of course, we're not really going to replace the face-to-face meeting, but some conferences are open to attend online as well. But more than conferences, we're trying to do network with our partners. And so not only Skype or video call one-to-one, but also groups call with other partners to discuss how to come together with new solutions. And then I noticed as well that during the first months, there was the trend among all our partners to call each other just to know how things were going, or just to have a call that was not only related to business. It was just to know how are you doing, and that was really nice. I thought it was a really nice personal touch, because we were all worried, of course, working in this industry, but we were trying to keep going and discussing, as much as possible by phone, online, and try to go ahead together. I also noticed that we are all open to work together and to find something new, so a new solution. We're all flexible, creative, and really willing to start again business as usual.
One of the most important things when you're working with partners abroad is to build rapport. And up till now, the model, as you say, has either been to meet people at events or to go and visit them in their offices. And I think it's crucial for people that you've never met before. It is a little bit of a challenge to build that rapport over Zoom or on the telephone and so on from zero. But for those that are established, I think it's been having clear communication and communicating regularly with people. I think that's clearly very important. Zoom has its place, but I do feel generally people are getting a bit zoomed out, as you might say. And so we've tried not to do that sparingly, not do it all the time. But I think the most important thing, whenever going back to the point of rapport, is having something that's of value for people. So not communicating just for the point of it, but making sure that we're coming up with innovative ideas that generally interest people. And then people are always willing to talk to you on the telephone or on Zoom or what have you. But I can't see us having a face-to-face event for quite a long while. I was looking forward to attending, for example, Study World. And now that's been pushed back to January. And again, that's been pushed back again, probably till next September. So it's going to be a while before we can do that. But I am looking forward to those face-to-face meetings again, because it's lovely to meet people that you've worked with for years. And it's lovely to meet new people. I think that's just going to be a bit of a while.
Obviously, we miss the fields and workshops, and we miss traveling and coming together. That's a very important part of our work. But now we try to see our partners and our students on digital platforms, and it works very good, and we are also very surprised of the outcomes. It works.
It's a difficult one. To replace it, I think it's a new normality. It's something that we all have to get used to. Yeah, for somebody like me who's been traveling for the last, well, for many, many years, I won't say exactly how many, but that contact with our partners, which is vital, and it's to the core of our business. We're a family-run business, so we build up our relationships individually with our clients. So it has been difficult, but with Zoom, we've all done our best. I think everybody had got used to using FaceTime when speaking to family and relatives abroad. Zoom obviously is the more commercial side of it. So that has worked well to a certain extent, keeping in contact with our partners, but not only just keeping in contact for business-wise, but for psychologically, mental well-being and mental health is just as important as physical health. And keeping that contact with agents and with business partners who we would have been in contact with regularly. Workshop-wise, being a member of Quality English right throughout July, August, September, October, we have run QE missions, and they have worked very well. They've been virtual missions where we've been able to keep in contact with our agents and our partners and keep them up to date with what's happening, because unfortunately with COVID, things are changing on a daily basis. I've also attended some of the Alfie and other workshops. They're not the same. You don't have the reception beforehand or the pint in the bar afterwards after a long day of meetings. So you miss that that physical side of things, but for fingers crossed, in the future we'll get back to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, we hope that the current online events won't be the only option forever. We like them. The way they are being organized by the events providers, they're really good. The system is great. They work amazing. Talking to the agents virtually is very productive as well for us and for them. But nothing replaces, in my opinion, at least, nothing replaces the face-to-face interaction. And what we hope for is that a blended kind of the blended options available for us in the future. So we have perhaps a mix of online events and face-to-face traditional style events, and perhaps with less people in it to perhaps respect the guidelines and the health and safety measures. But yeah, we do have the hope that things will be a little bit more balanced in that sense. So we have the online options, but also the face-to-face options in some, at least for the key events of the year, for the workshops.
Market changing in the fact that many restaurants, many bars closed down. So in my case, when people move to another country, another city, the first job they were looking for were in hospitality. But now they don't have this option. So when they move to another country, they have to find a qualified job immediately. I think more or less the same destination as before, but probably they are more interested in countries that provide IT jobs like Sweden, Norway, Finland, and Estonia, because I think IT jobs are the market that leave some option to get a job. So I think we have more requests for this country, but Spain, for example, I have many requests for Spain as well.
I would say that obviously technology helped us to go through the first part of the emergency in a good way, as we used really a lot Skype, Zoom, well, phone calls and emails as usual. But then obviously, since we couldn't then welcome people physically coming from outside of Ireland or outside of Spain, UK, then we had to arrange something online, and so that's it. We went in remote mode. That's what we did actually.
The accommodation has changed in the sense that we have put in protocols. We have put in protocols in the properties, as in like the first one is that there are not as many tenants assigned to properties anymore. Where before we would have a certain maximum capacity, that was reduced to try and help tenants feel a bit more comfortable in the property. That would have been one of the first changes that we did, by lessening, like we would have a lot of twin rooms that were used for 2 tenants, and many of those rooms were adapted to be offered just to single tenants. In that way, it would make the overall amount of tenants in the property less, which did help with social distancing and not having too many people living together. In general, for students still open to shared accommodation, I would say yes. I mean, over the last 7 months since this begun, there's been very little talk from tenants about nervousness about sharing with other tenants. I still think that despite the pandemic, tenants do still want that experience of living and sharing, like the experience with other people, although now it's done in a different way. We would still be sharing the common areas, but a lot of tenants would be in their rooms a lot more, because a lot of them now are working or studying from home. So now many of them would actually be more kind of in their room, and they wouldn't be maybe using the common areas as much. But if they still want to have a dinner together or spend some time together, they can meet in the common areas. And so students, yes, I'm sure, are still open to shared accommodation, because it does enhance their experience overall. Obviously, when you're living with a pandemic, there's a lot more other questions that you have to answer. But the tenants for the last 7 months have been quite happy to be together, and it does always improve their stay. Then, rather than living alone, they still have the option to meet people from other countries, other cultures, and be able to share the experience, and to even to be able to share this experience of the pandemic, because it's quite new to everybody, on how to live and interact and to continue maybe some sort of a social life or social interaction with COVID-19. And I feel that our tenants have done that, and they've learned how to live together, but also be safe together in the one environment.
The big one at the moment is that certain countries have to quarantine, and so the accommodation partners that have taken the time to put in a full policies in regards to that, to be able to support students. So whilst they're there, how do they get food, for example? Are they aware of the rules and so on? So that's definitely been one part of things. In some ways, the other part is just the same, is that if you get the quarantining right, and the residences or homestays are taking it seriously, they're providing spaces that people can be in, but make sure they're socially distanced, or they're shutting down those spaces. It's how do we make those areas as enjoyable as they were before, without obviously compromising the safety. And it's obviously a balancing act. We can't pretend for a second it's exactly the same as it was before. But by working with the providers that take it seriously, I think it's quite easy to provide a service that is good for people. And we've had some very positive feedback so far. We've only been open since the 7th of September, so we haven't had that many people staying in residences or homestays. But I think there's such a will. People are coming here because they really want to study in the UK. They want to study in an environment with international students. They want to make friends. They want to go out. And I think people are very adaptable, and the residences provide a platform for that. So they're all, again, about hygiene factors, making sure people are safe and secure. And after then, people do the rest.
I think it's all about the teachers. So when they study at a school, there are lots of different factors you know, the student services, the accommodation, the social program, their general happiness being in another country. When it comes to online lessons, it's the quality of the teaching. That's it. So the teachers have a much greater responsibility to make sure that the classes go well and the students get value for money. As I said before, you know, Delphin has very experienced teachers that have been here for a long time, as many other schools do as well. So I think, you know, the quality of teaching is key, and also the price. We have a very good price for online courses. I don't know if I need to mention it's £65 a week for 15 hours, which is good value, I think. And students respond to that. And one thing we found, if we can get them just to do one online class, they will book the course, they will extend it. But the difficulty is getting students through the door. That is hard. And I'm sure, you know, as an agency, you've found the same thing.
Well, yeah, definitely. Who is the provider? I mean, if I were a client still, if I were a young student, as I wish I was, definitely I will look for who is the provider and what's the experience, what's the provider's legacy in relation to international programs, study and internships program in general. So that's the most important thing, and we have it on our side as is the city, being in business for basically 20 years. And then also what's the program about? So not just a nice, fancy, good for marketing title, but also what's part of the package, what's part of the program. So if there is, except from the placement or the remote placement, if there is also something else, some guidance, orientation, ongoing chats with the professional and with your point of reference within the company, many things in order to make even a long distance remote experience still useful for whatever it is, for study or work, career reasons.
I think it's very important that online programs are very clear and they should be very clear and very easy in handling with them. Because communication actually is so important that everything what we read and see should be very clear and easy to understand.
Launched our online. Well, we've had online programs running for quite a while. We have a very robust e-learning platform that we work in conjunction with an external provider, and that has run well over the years. Obviously, we had to take a step up when we were closed down, and we moved the entire programs online. What's important, I think, the content of the programs. Here in CEC, what we decided was, rather than to purchase in content in order to get us through the lockdown, we took our own classes and fully digitized them. So it was quite a lot of work and expense that we put into it. So essentially what happens now is the CEC experience online. So students can have exactly the same experience in a class here, face-to-face, as they would online. For example, last week here in Ireland, unfortunately, we were moved to level 5 for a couple of weeks. And the students moved from a Wednesday to a Thursday online. Same teachers, same content, absolutely exactly the same, with a full social program running as well 5 days a week and evenings. So it is the full experience. From surveys we've done with the students, they're exceptionally happy with it. They would prefer to be face to face, but they are happy. But I think what you need to look for when you are comparing online programs is the quality of the programs, the content, and don't be frightened to ask the school, hey, can I sit in on a lesson, see what it's like. It's different. Things are very different. I think the flexibility at the moment, the time zones that we're offering are mainly sort of European time zones. We're about to launch other time zones, so fingers crossed, we'll see with that. I would say look at MEI and Quality English especially. So Quality English have a set of guidelines for online program provision, and our programs are accredited by Quality English, and you can see that document. So don't be afraid of asking the school for what are the accreditations for your online programs.
in the international market, the students are primarily paying for the experience abroad, paying for the experience outside of their home country. So the online programs don't have the power to replace the experience they will have in the face-to-face classes in another country. I see the online classes as purely as a temporary solution until we can finally travel again and welcome the students again, in our case, as the education providers. But until that happens, I think the online classes are giving the students at least this sense of involvement into the classes. And when they are fully ready to travel and start the classes face-to-face, or if they are already in the country, they will be at least trying to experience the country somehow until they can go back to the classes and have the full experience. But yeah, I think the important thing with the online classes is make sure that the teachers are fully prepared to this change, because I think it must be really difficult for the teachers in particular, because it's completely different for them, right? And they really need to find completely new ways to engage the student on a virtual platform rather than on a face-to-face setting. And I think on the face-to-face setting is perhaps more not easier, but perhaps much more interesting for the students, because their attention is fully there, is in the classroom with the teacher, with their colleagues in the class. But in the virtual platform, there's lots of things happening around them, right? And especially for students who sometimes share the house with other people and they have distractions around them. So I think it's much more challenging for students to keep themselves 100% focused on their virtual classes, but also is a good exercise for them in terms of discipline. So I think there's some good advantages in that regard as well. But we are trying to adapt, all this. So we are trying to overcome all these challenges and make sure that the classes online that we are offering are interactive and the students feel involved, just like they would do in the traditional classroom setting.
The accommodation that we offered was adapted in several ways. To begin, we did, ourselves in the management did a lot of research into the COVID-19 protocols and procedures that devised by the Health Service Executive in Ireland. So by doing that, we learned what kind of protocols should be explained to tenants who live in shared accommodations, to ensure that all tenants were aware of the protocols and the procedures for many aspects, to help stop the spread of COVID-19, to be able to live in a shared environment safely. We organised for new poster boards to be delivered to all of the properties, and they have specific colour printed posters from the Health Service Executive with tips and advice on how to share an accommodation and how to avoid unnecessary contact and the spread of COVID-19, with all the basic rules about washing hands, social distancing, sanitizing, etc. So every property received a new board with all of that information, which I'm sure, and we had received some feedback from the tenants that it was very helpful on arrival to know how to live with it when you're in the property. Because many of these people, when they come from home, it was different when you're living with your own family, but when you're living with strangers at the beginning, we were happy to have that kind of information. So that was the first way that we kind of adapted the accommodation. In other ways, we improved our cleaning schedule. So once per month, we organized for a professional cleaning, a professional deep cleaning of each property. That was continued, and there was added measures added to the cleaning schedule. So we organized for steam cleaners for specific COVID-19 related cleaning disinfectants to be provided to our cleaners. We also enhanced the cleaning procedure by arranging for the cleaners to clean areas that will be touched quite frequently, like door handles and banisters and doors in general. So our cleaners now have a new procedure to focus on these areas also. And in some cases, we actually increased the cleanings for some properties twice per month. So we were able to get our cleaner to go twice per month and to help with the general cleaning of the house, while mainly focusing on a deep cleaning and also a COVID-19 procedure, which we're sure also can help to limit the spread of the pandemic, to limit the spread of the disease, by arranging for a deeper cleaning and a more cohesive cleaning. And our cleaners were also provided with the necessary PPE, so personal protective equipment. So they all have the proper gloves, masks, face visors, anything that they've needed was provided to them, so that they feel safe in the property and that our clients feel safe in the property. And yeah, so that's how we've adapted the accommodation offer, because we've had to increase all of these aspects. We've had to increase the cleaning procedures. We had to provide the correct COVID information. And then finally, in our welcome emails, we basically amended our welcome emails to the tenants. So before arrival, all tenants are given a welcome email with all the information about their property and about where they're going to be located, etc. But we included some new paragraphs to explain about sharing your property during COVID-19, what you should do, what you should not do, things that you should do that can make you yourself feel safe and the other clients feel safe. And I can say over the last 7 months, it's been quite successful. We have very little issues or complaints in any of the properties in relation to COVID-19. And I feel that the unfortunate was quite reduced, and our tenants felt quite safe and comfortable to live in the properties.
That's a good one. Well, I suppose CEC is the largest junior provider in Cork, in the south of Ireland, and every year we would have welcomed in over 1,000 juniors on our programs: the English and Munster rugby, Valencia football, photo golf, horse riding programs, and during the year then the high school programs where students would stay here all year. So we've been talking to partners and parents regarding disappointment this summer and what to expect next summer. So obviously we're still in a planning stage of how it's going to work next year. But what would I say to the parents? I suppose I'm a parent myself, and I look at my children and I would worry where I would send them, and that's only normal, that's human. And I suppose it's to really look at the organizations that you're working with and to ensure that they have systems in place to deal with situations. At the moment, I do have high school students from Spain who traveled in September, so they are here at the moment. And their parents were worried in August, but after speaking to us, they felt secure that we have a system in place here in Cork in order to deal with whatever situation arises, whether it's that there is a lockdown again, which there is. If the students have to return home, what would happen? But we do have the full support structure in place. And I think that's where we've got to look at going forward. I don't think that COVID is going to go away, unfortunately, not in the short term. So I think we need to look and see how we're going to live with it and what steps we need to take in order to mitigate any potential problems. We have good interest from our junior groups for next year, I'm happy to say. So our rugby and football programs, all of the other programs that we run every year, we look forward to running them again next summer. And I would always say to parents, ask as many questions as you want. Don't be frightened to ask the questions, and we're here to help, and we're here to answer all those questions.
Education right now, I think the best solution for the entire family, also in terms of safety, is sending to boarding schools, because boarding schools are the safest place on earth. Because, for example, in our boarding schools, we make a COVID test as soon as they arrive at school. We put in a mild isolation for 24 hours till the result of the student is back. And then we introduce the student to the rest of the group. We make tests regularly. So with this kind of procedures, students are very safe. But having students in a boarding school outside of the family is the safest possible thing also for the rest of the family. because if a student is going to attend a day school and coming back and forth from the family, so with grandmothers, grandfathers that unluckily are the most vulnerable people, is much more dangerous than having a student in a very safe environment like a boarding school, leaving the rest of the family in even a safest environment because they don't have this kind of contact with the day schools, which could be.
It's very important now more than ever to think of a program with a certain school or a certain provider who is reliable. It's not really the time to think about pricing in a way that if something is cheaper of, let's say, 200 euro or 500 euros, I would worry about that. I mean, it's not really the time to go into what's the cheapest option, because I know that the times we are living are tough, even financially, but at the same time, our children deserve really the best treatment ever. So if families can't afford something now, there are two options. Either they find a way to go with the program, so they get some help from their relatives, they get some help financially speaking, or they postpone it of a year if they can. They can even postpone it for a year, which is something that we could even think of. We can start actually doing a bit of counseling now for the end of next year, or also for 2022. I mean, we are well capable of working well in advance, so we can do that. Then if the financials are not really a matter, so it's more a matter of safety, I would say not to worry, because really schools and language study travel providers have been training since the very beginning of the pandemic, and usually anyway in our industry we're all well trained as a matter of welcoming people and make them feel safe far from home. So in relation to more technical issues such as refunds, cancellations, nowadays usually programs are very flexible. So if a payment is done, it can always be transformed into a credit note, it can be refunded, it's not really a big issue. If then and I finish, it's a matter of, will my child be safe to travel abroad? Well, obviously I can't really step into each family's beliefs towards traveling abroad or moving far from home, but I would say that obviously even accommodation, campus accommodation, host families, they are all ready to welcome international clients, students in general, so they are safe places. Schools, they have programs already which were already tested during the first 6 months of the year. So if something can't be done because of an emergency at school, so that for a few weeks a school needs to be closed, automatically the program will go online. And this happens with language schools, with boarding schools, so even with the year abroad, with the high school program, even for a longer stay, so I mean also 6-9 months, there's not really a problem, because we are all already at our places in order to make sure that the experience will be, apart from safe, but will be also on the educational point of view done as usual. So yeah, that's it.
We all need to have a lot of courage at the moment, both, be mentally resilient, because it's very difficult for all of us, staff and students and partners, but things are going to get better. And hopefully this time next year, we go back to a normal world again. But advice for students traveling, I think there are measures in place now for students to travel and to be happy and safe when traveling to the UK and to Dublin. To Ireland, sorry. Obviously we have quarantine restrictions, which are difficult, but A lot of accommodation providers are offering 2 weeks free accommodation to help the students financially. We've got the online courses, and lots and lots of flexibility from us to help you guys, selling courses, and to help students who need flexibility when they book. So they, if anything happens, they have to cancel last minute, they're gonna be safe, they're gonna get their money back. So yeah, lots of flexibility from schools, I think, is important as well.
Have fun. Many people have a dream of studying abroad. I can talk from my personal experience. I went to Malaga when I was aged 18 and lived there for 4 months. And that experience is the primary reason I'm still in this industry. The ability to meet people from all over the world, to talk to them in a different language from your own language, to learn about other cultures, to learn about yourself is an amazing thing. And that has not changed. So I urge people to have fun. And just by being in a language school environment, you'll have that. Clearly, we are in a period where people are having to make choices that they didn't necessarily think about before, in that, should I go, shouldn't I go, will there be quarantine? And that's causing a lot of challenges for the industry. But that bit at its root of why we do what we do, to see students blossom in their careers, in their lives as people, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so I just urge people, it's great to study abroad. Yes, probably for the next 6 months can be very challenging for the industry, but you can still enjoy it. And as a little kind of last little vignette, for me, it's been really interesting to see the participation in our social activities over the last 8 weeks since we've been open. And actually people are participating more than they ever were before, maybe because they had more choice, maybe because there were more students at that time. But I feel the college has become so much closer together as a result. So I don't think I'll be thanking COVID because it's been a very difficult year. But I must say that has been one of the upsides. We've taken people off to the Science Museum, to the pub. We're going to have a Halloween event, and the people that are signing up to it, it's amazing, the quantity of people in comparison. So I think there's a real will there. I think people really want to enjoy themselves, and I urge students all around the world, come to the UK. You'll have a lot of fun and you'll learn so much out of it. And don't put off a rite of passage that you might have seen you had in the past to the future. Come.
I want to say that now we need to stay strong and positive, and we always think that this time will pass and everything will turn back. So, but we need to be patient, and through this we will go together. So that's very clear for me.
We know that saying stay strong and move on and anything that is along these lines is easy to say that to someone, right? It's easier saying than done. But it's a challenging time for everyone, and some people are struggling more than others, and we understand that. Now, what I would say to them is some people do have these emotional issues at the moment going on due to the situation. And what I would say is it's okay to not feel amazing. It's okay to feel a bit upset about it. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's some people feel, oh my God, but why do I feel that way? And some people feel guilty, and some people, they have these difficulties like recognizing how they feel about it. And I think it's okay to feel bad sometimes. It's okay to feel a bit down. It's okay to feel a bit confused. There's nothing wrong. So I think that the important thing for all of us is to recognize that feeling and don't be ashamed of it, and try to manage it in the best way we can. Try to see the good things, the good side of this whole crisis, like perhaps having more time for yourself, more time for a family, more time for your friends, more time for a partner. And remember that everything is temporary and good things will come soon. And at some point, all these will be just memories from the past. So yeah, just remember everything is temporary, and better days will come.
And advice to partners, just keep doing what you're doing because you guys are great.
To be flexible and open-minded, let's say, always plan an alternative. So always have a plan B going forward, especially regarding mobility projects.
A really important point for all partners going forward is, you really need to look at the schools that you're working with, and getting the cheapest price isn't always getting the best. Yes, you might get more volume, but when you consider it, I mean, when you go and you pick a premium school and there's a little bit more work involved in making the sale to a student and explaining to them why they should go to a more expensive school, there's less work when they actually go to the school and you have less problems to deal with, okay? But also in situations such as when COVID happened, which is a prime example of how organizations and how schools react and how partners work. You guys know us. I mean, we're not going anywhere. We're here. As soon as COVID happened, we just reacted immediately, supporting everybody, supporting our students, and we had no complaints from the students. Some wanted to postpone. They were able to postpone it till next year. Others, they went online, they loved it, they extended, they brought their friends, more people booked in. But I think that's really important for the agents to look forward, that maybe don't be looking for the cheapest price out there, the cheapest school, because it's not going to be the one that's going to suit going forward, because I don't think these lockdowns are over, and I think that they may happen and they may come back in different forms and fashions, and you want to be able to say to your students, okay, look, you're going to this school, yeah, if that happens, this is exactly what happens, you'll move online, everything will be perfect, you'll continue, you'll have your social program, you'll have your support, and I think build that confidence up with the students. When you're dealing with someplace that you're not sure, and everybody knows how their partners have worked over the last 6 months, I think it's time maybe to sit back and reflect a little bit and say, okay, right, maybe we should persuade them to spend an extra few euro in order to pick those schools. So it is an important point, I would say, going forward. And don't be afraid to ask for accreditations and see where the schools, because once you go online, for example, my online presence for programs may not be as sexy as a company that puts a huge amount of money into an online marketing or a website, but the content and the delivery of what we have would be 100 times better. Now it means that it's work for us to work on that going forward, but because we're more of a traditional type school, our web presence wouldn't be as much as the bigger giants out there. So, interesting times ahead. But as I said, I mean, from every negative you have to take a positive, and there's lots of lots of people have suffered and lots of people have had terrible times, but fingers crossed we'll come out of it the other side, and we will enjoy that glass of wine in Berlin or Sao Paulo or wherever the next workshop is, and